Welcome back. And in about 40 minutes from now, the closing gong will sound at the Nigerian equities market. As at midday, the all-share index was showing red, down 0.67%. Let's cross over now to the exchange where Boason is standing by to update us on today's trading session. Hello, Boason. Good afternoon. Hello, Boason. Well, the banking stocks rebounded, with index being the only winner as at midday. What motivated that positive sentiment? Are the stocks still gaining as we speak now?
Well, the sentiment you talked about was a bit positive. Then we've seen a bit of a pullback if you use GT Bank as a mirror of what was happening about an hour ago. This tier 1 lender was up by about 40 kobo on its share price. Within about 30 minutes, that moved down to about 30 kobo as we speak now. And if you look at the screen, all the way behind me, you find that share price gain now down to about 10 kobo. That looks like that a bit of upbeat sentiments in GT Bank that made about 40 kobo earlier is now waning at about 10 kobo. Who knows whether that stock will still close today in the negative territory? We don't know yet. But UBA is also making some gains as well, about 2.13% to the upside. Unity Bank is also making a gain. This is a very small company. Of course, you know, Unity Bank recently sold quite a number of its bad debts, and that is giving that tier 3 lender a bit of a fillip. But now that stock is up almost 9% in today's session so far. Of course, you said about 40 minutes to the closing bell, the market is still largely in the negative territory. Maybe, unless anything unusual happens, we may not see as much as big decline as we saw on the market value, about 450 billion on Wednesday. That may taper off a little bit, and the size may not be as big as that, unless we have last-minute booking of profit here. But if you look at consumer goods and industrial goods, both sectors losing about 5% as we speak. That tells you that this sentiment is still out there. The bearish sentiment is still there. Everyone is still looking at the political season. Everyone is looking at how much money they can take out of this market, booking profit, all ahead of the fourth quarter, and no one knows what is going to happen next.
All right, talking about consumer goods, quite interested in Nestle. In the past 3 days, we have seen investors go in and out of Nestle shares. What's the catch there?
Well, if you hold Nestle shares, Chimeze, at about 1,000 plus naira per share, that's a lot of money. You pay school fees, or you want to pay rent. You want to renew your mortgage at the end of the year in about December from now. I'm sure you look at that stock as something you can sell a bit down on your position, take some profit, then you can come back at some point. So this is a stock that is widely held, that is tightly held, very small number of shares, but it's very tightly held by those who owns it. They're not ready to go. They're waiting for their dividend at the end of the year. If they have any short position in terms of cash or liquidity, they hit this particular stock. Nigerian Bureau is the same, and a few other names like Lafarge, that the share price is also down by 9.35% so far, including cement company of Northern Nigeria based in Sokoto State, northwest part of the country. If you look at the news today on the market, it's relatively quiet. Just one company, Grave Nigeria, which is into packaging industry, just announced the retirement of its managing director, who spent 27 years in the company. He's been in the saddle as a CEO for about 17 years. He's now letting go at the end of October, but he will remain an independent director on the board of this company from the 1st of November. That's the news that we had from the stock exchange. Aside that, it's largely a bearish sentiment. Dangote Fly is also down for today as we talk about Nestle. But again, the banks are making a bit of a comeback. Maybe that will taper off what we'll see at the end of trade. We don't know, but Fidelity, GT Bank, UBA, and Unity are making some headway as we speak right now.
Well, we'll only be optimistic. Anyway, let's look at some corporate news here. Today, MTN's chief financial officer was sounding rather skeptical about their planned listing in the market. What is being discussed about this in the market today? Is MTN trying to use the excuse of the regulatory fine to escape listing in the market?
Well, I think there's been so much hype and hoopla all around MTN listing on the market. This is one big company that everyone has chased around like a very nice, pretty girl, a lady everybody wants to get married to, but looks like this girl is not yet ready for the market. That's the way I see it. So right now, there's so much discussion about the political season. Well, I'm on the trading floor here. You can hear 99% of the time brokers and traders are discussing more about who is in what political party, who's likely going to win the election, all the justlies and things like that. So politics make a lot for interesting coffee time, lunch time, dinner time, beer parlor conversation as we speak. MTN, well, a little bit, not with all the regulatory issues around whether it's going to pay back $2 billion in tax arrears, it's going to bring back 8.13 billion US dollars, which was the central bank says it was illegally repatriated. All of that is beclouding the IPO story. The IPO is about $500 million, Chimeze, and you're talking about $10 billion. So I'm not sure for now MTN will be considering an IPO where it has $10 billion hanging around his neck or hanging over his head like a sword or the Damocles. If I'm in that position, I'm going to forget $500 million and face $10 billion US dollars.
Sure, perhaps those waiting may probably have to wait a little more. Thank you for your time, Boason. And Democratic Republic of Congo's mines minister says a new mining code signed into law in March cannot be called into question. Addressing a mining conference in the copper and cobalt mining city of Kolwezi, Martin Kabolulu called on industry leaders to work to implement the code as it was signed into law by President Joseph Kabila. Major mining companies, including Glencore and Randgold, bitterly opposed the code, which accesses tax exemptions and hikes royalties and profit taxes. And Kenya's central bank has fined 5 commercial banks a total of 392.5 million shillings in connection with the theft of funds at the National Youth Agency. Dozens of senior government officials and business people were charged in May with various charges related to the theft of nearly $100 million from the youth agency, marking a new effort to crack down on widespread graft. The 5 banks are Standard Chartered Kenya, Equity Diamond Trust, Cooperative Bank, and KCB Group. And finally, a recovery in South Africa's economic growth will be slow and less than the Treasury's estimate of 1.5% for 2018, following a surprise contraction in the first 2 quarters, and that's according to ratings agency Moody's. And Moody's lead analyst for South Africa, Luis Avila, says growth is going to be below 1%, but it's difficult to say to what extent. According to her, the rising share of government revenue that South Africa spends on debt servicing was a concern for Moody's, but that she expects some fiscal adjustment in the October budget statement. And that's a wrap on the program. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu.